The 1938-1939 program year began with three events: the World's Fair of Missions, celebrated by the Council of Churchwomen; the Baptist Women's Home Missionary Society, celebrating 60th anniversary, with an invitation to Mrs. Rand Sira, a retired home missionary who spoke about her work at the Kodiak Orphanage in Alaska. And then on October 12th, the opening of the Webster House was celebrated, and many of the circles began to start holding their meetings at the house. Since the early days, the mite boxes had been a form of collecting money for mission support, and in 1939 the proceeds were given to the Judson Fellowship Fund in celebration of the 150th anniversary of Adoniram Judson's birth. Then, as 1939 kicked off, in March the annual Shower for Charity Carmen was held. It had been a tradition for many years in recognition of her work as LABC's social worker in the surrounding neighborhoods. Then the Society remained active in the Women's League of Voters, and in 1939 established the chair of the Christian Citizenship Committee that would be the Society's member in the League. In April of 1940, at the annual meeting and spring dinner, the speaker was Professor Edith Vogel, who was a musicologist on the faculty at Cayuga College. Her immigration to the United States in 1939 was to serve as the director of music for the Czech Pavilion at the 1939 New York World's Fair. Czechoslovakia was then overrun by the Nazis while she was in New York, and she could not return to her native land. Eleanor Roosevelt helped find her position at Cayuga College. During that year, many events continued. Members of the Society were involved in local welfare, Red Cross, and British relief efforts, and on April 3rd, the Society celebrated the anniversary of the consolidation of 3 women's societies at LABC and honored Helen Barrett Montgomery, who served as the first president of the combined society. During the 1942-1943 program year, all Society members were encouraged to register for the community defense work, and the White Cross continued its efforts to supply the needs of missionaries, but began to have difficulty getting materials produced to the missionaries due to the chaos of World War II. And it was by April of 1942 that the support efforts for Our Boys began to show results. At each of the meetings of the circles, excerpts from letters from Our Boys were read. And it was in December of 1942 that a new circle was formed, the Willoway Circle. During the spring of 1943, several circles held joint meetings where Naomi Carmen and Charity Carmen were the guest speakers, sharing the highlights of their work in India and Burma. Due to the war, their work had ceased at that time. As of April 1943, 181 LABC men and women were serving in branches of the military service or at college, and it was decided that the Student Council Committee would continue to keep in touch with the students, and the Society's advisory board would take on those in military service. In October of 1943, plans were laid for an Armistice Day luncheon, at which Mrs. Lansdale would bring her speech entitled "The Price of Enduring Peace." The presentation would be followed by a discussion on how serious the women of the Society were about enduring peace, even if it meant extending rationing after the end of the war. In May of 1944, the Rochester Federation of Churches celebrated their 25th anniversary, and as part of the celebration, the goal was to raise $10,000. The LABC Women's Society set a goal to have each member of the society contribute 25 cents. Furthermore, the Christian Citizenship Committee encouraged all circles to study and support the following topics: participating in democracy, international relations, public morals, industrial relations, and peace. That year, at the annual meeting and dinner of the Society, the featured speaker was Miss Annie Root. Through the rest of 1944, other events took place. The Christian Friendship Circle planned to assist St. Mark's Church the Italian Baptist Church, and to serve meals at the National Italian Society meeting to be held in Rochester. And at the same time, the executive committee suggested that come fall, if anyone had excess vegetables, they be brought to the church kitchen, where a canning team would use them for church dinners and social services. Finally, in September of that year, the White Cross Committee was asked to produce 30 kits for Russia, and the work would be distributed throughout all of the circles. It is worth noting that in 1944 we have record of the Society's continued support for the McCall mission in France. That call came for women to mend clothing and had been donated, which would be shipped to France and distributed to the working class. The Society also contributed $25 to the cause. Kicking off 1945, the Executive Committee voted to financially support the work of Dr. Ida B. Scudder at the hospital in Vellore, India. We have many details about the 1945-1946 year, but just a portion of those are represented by the minutes of the annual meeting, where we read there were 446 members, 80 missionary meetings, 78 sewing meetings, 8 social meetings, many programs presented on civic and Christian citizenship and missionary themes, 5 church dinners that served 1,100 people. By 1947, the Society agreed to support the Church's Every Member Win a Member campaign, and the Society's constitution and bylaws were revised. The year-end report for 1947 indicated social service work, 557 cards and letters, 820 phone calls, 32 times washed clothes for 6 people, $767 given to charity, White Cross, and there were 825 articles made, including clothing, quilts, and bandages. The Girls Guild sent boxes of dressings to the Red Cross, and the Society made a commitment to pray each day for a certain time for the Society's world service and other work of the Society.